Okay, I want to discuss a couple of things with the indicator reader that you need to know about in order to make sure that it's working properly. So what is COBC? COBC is calculate on bar close. What it really means is calculate on the first tick of the next bar, but what this does when it's set to true is it will keep the indicator from running on every new incoming tick, every new transaction. When it's set to true, it runs only once per bar, and that's on the first tick of the next bar. Okay, so it'll be at the close of this bar that will get the calculation for the Bollinger Bands for that bar. So you see how it doesn't have a value for the Bollinger Bands for the current bar? That's because it's set to calculate on bar close true. All right, so this is a 10-minute chart on the left. This is a 1-minute chart on the right. This is the source chart on the left. This is the higher time frame. And I have the readers on the chart on the right. So these are the indicators that I'm reading on the left, the Bollinger Bands, stochastics, MACD, this little SMA 200 period. And then I have readers accessing each of those indicators. So there's really one combination that does not work, and that's when the source chart is set to calculate on bar close equals false, while the reader is set to true. Okay, and when calculate on bar close is set to false, you see that the values of the indicator are updating with each new incoming tick. They say that it's more resource intensive, but for these light code indicators that don't really run a lot of calculations, having them set to calculate on bar close false doesn't really affect your CPU or NinjaTrader that much. I mean, it's very minimal calculations that are run for these simple indicators. But when that source chart indicator, so the main indicator, the one that you're copying, the stochastics in this case on the higher time frame on the 10-minute chart, I'm copying this to the 1-minute chart over here with the indicator reader. If that source indicator is set to false, then the reader has to also be set to false. So this is the one that does not work right here. This one does not work, this combination. When the source chart is set to false and the indicator reader chart is set to true. You can have the indicator reader set to false while the source chart is set to true. That will give you the correct values. You see the MACD here is 0.0757. The average is 0.0623. You have the same values over here with the indicator reader, and you can see that these are calculating for that current bar, for this bar right here, as is the SMA. This one is 5202, so is the indicator reader reading the SMA set to 5202. Okay, you can have them both set to true, and of course you can have them both set to false. That works fine. So if I set this stochastics to calculate on bar close false, it would read the current value properly. So they can both be set to true, they can both be set to false, but the only combination that works where they're different, where one is false and one is true, is when the indicator reader is false. Okay, so basically the takeaway is if the indicator reader is set to true, which again is this property right here, calculate on bar close that we're talking about under the data heading. If it's set to true, then the source chart indicator also has to be set to true. It cannot be set to false while the indicator reader is true. So they both have to be false, they both have to be true, and the only different combination that works is when the source is set to true and the indicator reader is false. Okay, and just to show you that, you can see here indicator reader set to true while the source indicator is set to false. These values are bouncing around, and the new incoming values for the next bar, when this next bar opens, those values are going to be totally different as new bars come in, as they can't link up properly. Okay, so this is pretty important that you remember this so that you get the proper functionality out of the indicator reader.